Hey guys, gonna do a wheel cylinder today in real time. Let's get to it. Got my tire off. First step, we're gonna take this drum off. These drums do not like to come off easily. Just gonna hit it back and forth, back and forth. All right, finally loosened up. Our goal is to do this wheel cylinder with taking off as little as possible. So we're going to take our brake line off from the back. That's a 14 millimeter on this one. I've already loosened the fitting up. I'm just going to pull that right out of there. If your brake line's really rusty, you go to start turning it, might snap off. Wire brush it a little bit, spray some PB Blaster on it, and hopefully the brake line comes free from the fitting. It doesn't spin off and break, but if it does, replace the brake line. I got videos on that. Now we've got 11 millimeter bolts in the back of the wheel cylinder. Sometimes they're 8 mil, 10 mil. These ones are 11. Should be 2 bolts. Almost all wheel cylinders are the same. So this applies to most vehicles. This job. Sometimes it's tough to get a ratchet in some of them. Got to get creative. Use a wrench, whatever, heat them up. These ones are coming out nice and easy. We've got a couple of springs here. I'm just going to take off the top 2 springs so that I can separate the pads and get that wheel cylinder out. From the back, got my brake line. Let's see if we can see these bolts. The 2 bolts I taken out right there. I think the easiest way to get these springs off, if you don't have any special tools, take some vice grips. And grab onto the outside spring. This one's really rusty. It's kind of locked in there. I'm going to grab a flathead screwdriver and work that rust out a little bit. Get it twisting a little bit. Just rust it to the other spring behind it. There we go, we freed it up. That's 1 spring off. Just gonna let it hang there. This spring on the bottom is connected and it swivels. that loose at the bottom. I'll show you. This little guy was connected there. Now we're going to take off the spring right here. Jammed in there pretty good. See if I can get a grip on it now with the vice grips. There we go. We'll just let that spring hang, but it fell off. Just put it up here. Now we can spread the wheel cylinder apart. Now, this wheel cylinder usually doesn't like to come out of here real easily. We're going to take a little hammer from the back side. There we go. Now it's loose. Old wheel cylinder's out. We've got this strut bar right here. Let's see if I can get the camera. Make sure that goes back into place afterwards after we bolt the new wheel cylinder on. Grab our new wheel cylinder. We're going to make sure that they look the same. Looking good. I'm going to go ahead and take the bleeder screw out right there. It's going to help me fit it in easier. Bleeder screw is 8mm or 5/16. And that bleeder screw is going to face up. We've got the wheel cylinder in its groove. I'm going to start both of these screws in the back by hand as far as they'll go. If you do need to fabricate a brake line after this job, I got a video on that. Or bleed brakes, got a video on that. All right. Wheel cylinder's nice and tight. We're gonna put this strut bar back in. It's got a spring on one side. And get it lined up. And squeeze our pads back together. We gotta come outwards a little bit. All right, everything's lined back up. Got to set the spring in. It clips to the back of the brake shoe. We'll set that in. These two springs hook together. Depending on what wheel cylinder you're doing, things will be a little different where the springs are. And I've got spring hooked into everything it needs to hook into, except for the top. I'm going to see if I can get that to go into its place with these vice grips real nice and tight on there. There we go. Make sure that spring sits all the way to the back of the anchor, so we got room to get our other spring on. I've got to set the spring into this swiveling spot down below. There you go, it's set in. Push the back out where the tension should be. We got our next spring. Don't lose track of where these guys go. Hook onto this spring with my vice grips again. Tighten them up a little. Almost there. Give it a little help with a couple of taps. And there we have it, new wheel cylinder installed. Put the bleeder back in from the back. We'll hook up our brake line and bleed the air out of it. So I'm going to go ahead and put the drum back on. Might take a little bit of adjustment because those pads have been moved around a little. One might be higher or lower. You can always turn your star wheel, back them back in a little bit. We'll get that drum adjusted so that it goes back on there. Just clean up the star wheel because it's seized. Get the drum back on, brake line back on, bleed the brakes, call it a day.